Uh, when you got to in a team that's not quite gelled and not everybody's got the same experience. How do you avoid people cutting into the same space at the same time because they've both realised this space is open and
Yeah.
it's a it's a threatening position to have the disc in,
Hmm.
and you've both gone for it, and then because you've both gone for it, the disc doesn't get thrown there.
You're exactly right. Yeah. So I can go with you through an example. But this is a common catch-22 problem that we see in Ultimate, right? Which is a
Yeah.
threatening space. Maybe the store's starting to get high, and then two people will cut to the same space. And that's kind of problematic because then it brings two defenders into that space. So is that the right kind of problem assessment that I'm hearing?
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, cool. So there's a few ways that we can kind of solve this. The first way is through setting out clearer rules or protocols in terms of how we take options in the field. Okay, so it's a bit of a team agreement or team expectations or protocols that we'll use when we play. So, for example, are you familiar with kind of the vertical stack kind of process and
Yeah. Yes.
cutting
Yeah. Yeah.
from? Does your team usually cut from the one or from the five?
We typically have the front person come under and the back person go deep.
Okay, so I'll just kind of draw it up so that we have a visual example. Okay, you can move this. Cool. So we've got five players in the stack. Yep.
Yep.
And so what you're telling me is you'll have which player going under usually?
The front man comes under.
This person comes in.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
And then this person presents the deep option.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And so the idea is we identify the spaces that we want to use first of all, right? This person probably has the option between kind of that break side cut or the open side cut, right? And we want to identify, okay, regarding the protocol, who kind of goes first. So from a very like first layer perspective, the idea is we don't want kind of the second person also going to that same space at the same time,
Mhm.
right? And
Yeah.
so where is the problem arising? In what scenario are you feeling
Uh,
that two people are cutting to the same space?
so we've sort of got this situation where it's been like one or two passes after we've come off a stack, and we don't really quite reset it, and it
Mm-hmm.
sort of just becomes a bit of a mess. So we don't really push it back.
Yep.
Once like that, we're two passes out off, it's a mess, and we don't roll the stack back.
Yes. Okay, cool. So it sounds to me like we're kind of making this first cut, right? And then maybe this person makes a deep cut, doesn't come off, or there's a cut here. And then from that point, it gets a little bit chaotic, is what it sounds like. Maybe you might have
Yeah, exactly.
multiple people recognizing that this is the space cutting into here. Maybe you have this handler coming up and also cutting into there. So that sounds like what's happening. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly it. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So here it's a question about continuation. Okay. And continuation is effectively once we get into flow, once we actually throw this first gainer pass, right? Who is the next continuator? Okay, so who is the next person that is going to be using the open space? Now, based on what you've told me, it sounds like it's this last person in the stack that should be that continuator. That should be that person either coming under to get this next pass, right? In which case, then the new five becomes the next continuator, or presenting a deep option so that we can just kind of score quickly, right? So is that the right person that should be moving?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, cool, excellent. And the idea is if that person doesn't get the disc, then we need to be clear on what the next step is. All right. And so for some teams, if we can present this deep option, gets faked off straight away, it's usually this next five that comes in and presents this in option.
Hmm.
But many times, especially is this for your university team?
Yeah.
So many times, especially at a university level, it's not that well gelled, if that makes sense. In other words, the timings aren't as instantaneous. It might take an extra 2 or 3 seconds for this movement to occur. All right.
Mhm.
So in a perfect world, this is what would happen. We have this person getting ready to make the cut. They're going to go ahead and make that cut. They're going to get the disc. As the disc is in the air, this person's already out here setting up, ready for their cut, knowing that as this person catches the under, then they can initiate. Okay. So they're already ready. That's the first step.
Yeah.
Then the idea is as they make their cut, whether that's out or in, the next person is already getting ready to move as well. So if they go out, this person's ready to go in, connect, connect. All right. So that's a well-oiled, well-drilled scenario. And in actuality, it's not really the case. Okay. In practice, it's not really the case. So then the question is, once we actually present our next continuation option, if it's not on, if it actually ends up taking an extra 2 or 3 seconds, what's our next option? Yeah. And so
Yeah.
the idea is at this point, usually this handler will catch up and become a reset option. And then this is another area where miscommunication can occur, as I'm sure you've probably felt this scenario where maybe we've looked off this option. It's taken a few seconds to develop and occur. We've looked it off. And then all of a sudden, this front of the disc area is open, right? So this area. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so maybe the stall is getting up to, 4, 5. Yeah.
Hmm.
And so at this point, there's a few people that can attack that space. Which people could it be?
Pretty much everybody in the stack
Yeah,
and the
exactly.
guy that's deep can come under.
Exactly. Like you might have this, sense of miscommunication where this person's thinking, oh, now I'm free under. This person's maybe thinking, oh, now I got to go under. This person's probably thinking, oh, we're going to go from the 1 again. I'm going to go there. At the same time, the reset's probably thinking, oh, I can probably go up the line and get the disc here as well.
Yeah.
So in other words, it's a big cluster F, right? And so one simple thing that we can do in this scenario is set up a plan or set up a protocol that the team always follows. All right. So the
Okay.
idea is if the store, and this is only one way you can go about it, and sometimes it's good to not be so rigid as well, but this is one way that one thing that we can implement to make it clearer. And the idea is if the stall is getting to 4-5, or if we're looking off that first option, then this person can turn and then start looking at the reset. All right.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
when they've turned and when their eyes, and I'm going to draw a set of eyes here, when they've started to look at the reset there, that should signal to the downfield cutters to stop trying to attack this space. Okay. And simply it means that they can come back, reset the stack. And really it's only this one reset, this one player that's going to be engaged. And then also this one fill that might be engaged soon as well. Okay.
Hmm.
And so this body language, this vision means that now this is the one person that can either attack this space or attack this space and kind of get the disc negative. Okay. I did make
Okay.
another video talking about handler spaces, so it might be worth watching that inside the classroom. But the idea
Yeah.
is we have this space, we have the negative space. There's also 2 other spaces, which is this immediate bailout behind the disc and opposite side of the field for the fast wide swing.
This was what I was going to ask about, and then I saw your YouTube video you put up just like an hour ago.
Yeah,
So I watched
nice.
that. I don't need to ask about this now.
Yeah, excellent. So I hope that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so this is one protocol that we can do. It's like when the vision or when the body language shows our team that we're only looking for this option, it should signal to everyone to stop going into that space where we kind of want this person to have the priority. Make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah. Again, in practice, it's not always the easiest to apply. People will think, oh, like I know I can get open at this point in the store. And so maybe they'll just go cut. And maybe that's the case. Maybe they will get open. And maybe in some scenarios, this person's got a really good defender on them. This person doesn't. And maybe we do want that person to cut, right? And so it's not as black or white as we might think. But
Hmm.
generally speaking, we can kind of put those rules in place and say, all right, once the store gets 4 to 5, let's just look at our reset. All right, we can even do this earlier. Store gets 3 to 4. Let's look at our reset and let's not present any more cuts. Okay.
Yep.
I think that's how I'd solve that problem.
Yeah.
Any questions on that front?
No, that's helped quite a bit.
Okay, cool. And I'll make sure to send this recording over to you as well, so you can reference it. And if you have any
Brilliant. Thank you.
teammates that like if you want to explain your concept to teammates and stuff, then you can just send this to them instead of having to explain it yourself.
Yeah, they don't seem to listen to me, so
All right. Hope that makes sense.
yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you.
No, all good.